The best bits.
Second-rate show.
Juggernaut of a podcast.
Where we watch
Fluff.
and see if we like it. One, please.
Hello and welcome to the Best Bits Second Rate Show episode 2, where we flash back to random. Oh my god, to a random week of release and give a second chance to a film we didn't see the first time. This is Kevin, and as always, I'm joined by Jamie. Jamie, how are you?
Not too bad, Kevin. Always great to be back.
And Jamie, for this episode, we're joined by Will.
Yay! Well, listen, it's great to come in as a guest host, Kevin and Jamie. Great to be on.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the
Thanks,
show.
Jimmy.
It's great to have you here.
I'm a big fan.
We're doing 1989.
Yes.
What was going on this time? How many years ago was that? 20?
23.
Too many.
No, 30. 40. How many years?
No,
I don't
not
know.
40.
33 years ago. 33 years ago.
Three middle-aged guys tried to work out.
Foundation maths.
All right, so 1990 would have been 32 years ago. 33 years ago.
33 years ago, Kevin, I'll tell you. Right, put on your nostalgia hat. Because this time, 33 years ago, the Soviets were leaving Afghanistan. Thanks to Rambo 3.
Thank you, Rambo. I knew you'd say it.
Thanks, Rambo.
Also, in other uplifting news, the Tiananmen Square massacre happened this weekend, 33 years ago, where the official Chinese government figures of deaths in the Tiananmen Square massacre was 241, but other estimates range from somewhere between 800 to 4,000 deaths. My God.
I remember it well from Michael Jackson's music video.
Oh, really? Was it there? If you like video games, you were playing Dungeon Magic Sword of the Elements, or BAT, B-A-T. Both games I have not played. Jamie, have you played either of those games or even heard of them?
I've heard of BAT. I've never played it.
I want to give you another bit of news. And in Ireland, the major bit of news from this week, back in 1989, an order was signed for the creation of the University of Limerick, which is the first university founded since the foundation of the state. Imagine that. And later that day, DCU, the Dublin City University, was also created. So UL and DCU were ordered to be created on this
They took the time, didn't they? Wait until the 80s to have a university.
The very end of the 80s,
To
too.
another university. It's the first university since the foundation of the state. Isn't that mad?
What was number one in the Irish charts?
You want to know what number one of the Irish charts was?
No.
It was Heart and Soul by the Irish rock band No Sweat.
I have no memory of this song. Or
Neither
this
do
band.
I. Neither do I.
Shit banter.
Tell us what was going on at the box office.
Oh, okay.
Shit banter. Come on.
Right, Will, the top 10, and I'm going to count down from what was number 1 right down to the film that I asked you guys to watch for this episode. Number 1 was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yay.
It was
Great.
the third film in the Indiana Jones series,
I've heard of that, yeah.
directed by Steven Spielberg. And number 2 was a film called No Holds Barred. Number 3 was See No Evil, Hear No Evil. 4 was Field of Dreams.
I love that.
5 was Roadhouse. Number 6 was Renegades. Number 7 was Pink Cadillac. Number 8 was K9. Number 9 was Pet Sematary. 10 was Major League. We're outside the top 10 now, so we're in flop territory if they're new releases. Number 11 was Rain Man, 12 was Say Anything, 13 was Scandal, 14 was Dead Poet Society as a new entry, 15 was The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, and the film that I chose for us to watch was Vampire's Kiss, starring Nicolas Cage.
Yes.
And I'm going to roll a trailer.
How was your weekend?
It's all right, you know. It's nothing earth-shattering.
He was an ordinary guy.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Looking for an extraordinary love.
I'm Peter Love.
Rachel.
I brought this girl up to my place the other night.
It started with a kiss.
Really hot.
A very special kiss.
You wanted her very badly.
Yeah.
A kiss that could drive you mad.
I hate interrupted love affairs, don't you?
Yep.
It's affecting his work.
There you are. It's a horrible, horrible job. and you have to do it.
It's ruining his appetite.
My next appointment with you is Tuesday afternoon.
I'd like to make it sooner.
It's spoiling his sleep.
Sooner.
And don't think people haven't noticed.
Am I getting through to you? Over!
He is so eccentric.
My.
For Peter Lowe,
Sooner.
that's just love
Love. Love.
in the big city.
Yeah! Don't laugh.
I'm a professional. I don't lie.
I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!
Nicolas Cage,
The tortures of the damned!
Maria Conchita Alonso,
Shoot. Do it or I'll fire you. Do you understand? Not the floor, Alva.
and Jennifer Beals.
You are so pathetic.
Vampire's Kiss.
Strange stuff. I'll never do that again. Jeez.
Right, Vampire's Kiss then. For those that aren't familiar with it, it is most popular these days for that meme of Nicolas Cage sort of gooning at the screen. He's got sort of like his head cocked back and his eyes are wide and he's got this demented smile on his face. And that was all I knew.
Jamie's doing it.
Jamie's doing it. But I'll give you a little blurb on the film, if the trailer hasn't given it all to you. It's about a publishing executive who is visited and bitten by a vampire and starts exhibiting erratic behaviour. He pushes his secretary to extremes as he tries to come to terms with his affliction. The vampire continues to visit and drink his blood, and as his madness deepens, it begins to look as if some of the events he's experiencing may be hallucinations. So is he a vampire, or is he just fucking mental?
That's a spoiler. Come here. As usual, I and both myself and Jamie didn't look up anything. So I genuinely didn't catch who directed this, who wrote this, who shot it, music. So who were the background people, please?
Okay, it was directed by an Englishman, Robert Bierman. And Robert Bierman, according to IMDb, is no longer working as a director.
Wow.
His last credits were Holby City, Waking the Dead, Casualty, The Bill. It was a really surprising sort of list of credits that I saw after coming from this film, which I thought was really assured and accomplished, to doing sort of filler TV. Not to be too derogatory towards that kind of television, but you know, those are like heightened soap operas. So it was a bit of a step down.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's an English guy, and all the behind the scenes pictures that I could see of him, he was wearing an eye patch. So I don't know whether he is a one-eyed man or whether he had a lazy eye. But I thought that was
right. Kevin, are you implying that they hired a pirate to direct this movie?
And he didn't continue directing features because he was busy on the high seas.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You said this, so was this a flop? Did this completely flop at the box office?
It opened to 96,000 that weekend in 29 theatres, so it was a very limited release, and it ended up with a domestic, in fact, a worldwide haul of 725,000.
Oh, that was a flop.
It was made, though, on a budget of 2 million, so it looks fucking great for 2 million.
Jesus,
and Nicolas Cage,
oh wow,
Nicolas Cage was coming off of Moonstruck, a film which at the time he was very disheartened by. He thought it was too soft. Now he loves it. His agents were pressuring him not to take this film because he was only going to get paid 40 grand. And he ended up, because he loves all that, you know, oddball stuff, he ended up first passing on the project and then coming back around after he had a meeting with Bierman. And he ended up signing on to the film, and he considers this to be one of his favourite ever films that he's done and his favourite performance that he's done. And he still has the Vampire's Kiss car. He bought a Corvette out of it, out of the 40 grand. And he said the car is probably still worth that much today, but he'll never sell it because it's his Vampire Kiss car. And he has so much affection for it. But he also says that he feels he was fucking mental during the making of this film. He thinks that the two of them were just egging each other on to be more and more out there.
Really?
When I was listening to sort of highlights from the commentary on this film, neither of them could make sense of why they made some creative choices in the film.
This is the director and Cage. Is that who?
Yeah, the director and Cage.
Okay.
Like, the director would say to him, when you walk in to the office the next day, I want you just to leap onto the desk and shout at your secretary. And he's like, why? And he's like, just do it. So he comes in and he leaps up onto it and he's like, what am I doing that for? I'm like Spider-Man all of a sudden. But yeah, there's a lot of those sort of creative decisions taken. But what did you guys think of the film, broadly speaking?
I thought it was, again, I never saw this up until this morning, and up till now, I just known it for being the source of many, many Nicolas Cage memes.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P.
Exactly. But, like, am I getting through to you? Alva! His line readings are, he acts, he does all the acting in this movie. Like, he acts, it's mega acting at its most mega. And he's just, it's, do you know what, on a sidetrack, my first thoughts watching it was like, oh, right, I guess this was sort of like, this seems very, very similar to American Psycho. They must have like taken up a lot of things from it.
Yeah.
And then you've got trivia. I didn't realize American Psycho came out like a couple of years later. The book.
Oh, the book. Right. But I do know the patch.
The book was 91.
The book was 91. I remember that book was being passed around in college, and there was, this would have been 1999, 2000. And we had a guy that was like wanting to freak out the girls by reading up passages from the book. And it just sounded demented. You know, I think there was I've never read it, but I think there was a whole chapter in the book where he puts a rat in a bucket and straps it to a woman's crotch or something. Yeah. But I thought you were going to say something else, though. I thought you were going to say
about
that
American Psycho. Christian
Bale looked towards this film as being a touchstone or a reference for how he was going to approach playing Patrick Bateman.
Would not surprise me. But I mean, the whole, like, the difference was that I suppose the American Psycho movie was the satire of the, you know, excesses of the 80s and yuppies and whatnot. Whereas this was actually filmed in the middle of that. So you can argue when yuppie asshole Nicolas Cage, who's a literary agent, right? That's his job?
Yeah.
A literary agent who turns into a bloodsucker. Oh. There's a joke there, but it's too obvious, so I'm going to steer clear.
Nicolas Cage sums the film up a lot more elegantly, and he said that he thinks the film is just a man's loneliness and inability to find love drives him insane. And the director chose to make, you know, that typical thing of like New York as a character in the movie, but he framed every shot with the buildings looming over Nicolas Cage and constantly oppressively in the frame, so that you always felt like New York was closing in on top of him and I suppose us watching it. But yeah, what did you think of it, Will? Did you love it?
Oh man, I'm going to reserve my final declaration until the very end, Kevin. I'm going to reserve it. I'd hate to say it up front, but I honestly, the first thing I thought about this film was, even in the opening credits, it had those iconic 80s opening credits where you're showing the skyline, you're showing the location in which the story is set, which I do love. But what I particularly loved about these credits is how beautifully the New York skyline is shot. Shot mainly at dusk with the red setting sun. It's just, gorgeously shot throughout this film. Even like when Nicolas Cage is in his psychiatrist's office, they must have had it must have been a massive room, because when he's standing against the window, the skyline is almost flat against his image. So they had to have shot it with like a really long lens and a big open space to actually pull that shot off. I'm imagining, I'm only guessing, I'm not a cinematographer. It's all Nicolas Cage. For me, it's
got a great supporting cast though.
I love the supporting cast. They play it so straight, but Cage goes fucking bananas in this.
He does.
He is the comedy. He is the epicenter of every scene in a compelling way. He makes decisions that made me guffaw. Physical decisions in the camera that made me like guffaw watching it. And I went, just dude. Because, to start it off, Cage is this, fucking an absolute monster of a literary agent, you've already said. He just picks up a woman, brings her home.
He's a prick, and he doesn't really get. He gets worse.
He's a horrible fucker.
He's a bully. He's a really nasty bastard in this.
He spirals.
His assistant, Maria Conchita Alonso.
Best known from Predator 2. To me, anyway.
And Colours and a few other things. Mm-hmm. But I wanted, as you were talking about that, and I said the cast were great, I just want to mention Elizabeth Ashley was playing his psychiatrist, and she's had a huge career. Just watching her recently again in Russian Doll, but she was cracking me up. There's some line readings that she does where you've got to imagine she's got Nicolas Cage as a client, and Nicolas Cage who thinks he's a vampire as a client, and the way that she's deadpan delivering some of the responses to how he's performing, I just found that a really hilarious two-hander.
How I knew this film was going to go to strange places was in that early scene where he returns to his apartment, with a girl he finds in a nightclub, and a bat comes in to his apartment, and he's kind of fascinated by this bat, and he reveals to his psychiatrist that it kind of turned him on, and I just went, okay, this film is going to go to fun places.
You know who that girl was?
Cassie Lemons.
She is one of the pioneers of black female filmmakers. She did Eve's Bayou. She's a very accomplished filmmaker these days.
Most recently did Harriet, the
Tubman movie, Harriet Tubman.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I didn't know that.
So she's a filmmaker now.
I guess most people would probably know her from Silence of the Lambs as Clarice Starling's best friend and colleague.
I would know her as well from Candyman. She was
oh, yes. True.
That's one of the things I love about watching old movies, is you get to see people who are at the start of their careers, where it's like, oh, that's that person. That's what they were doing way back 33 years ago.
Yeah, she's good. You can't quite understand what she's doing with a very strangely accented Nicolas Cage at the start of this movie.
I think he's doing a yuppie accent. I think you can hear he's done his bit of research out in the bars of New York City, where he's been in the bathrooms, I presume, sharing bumps of cocaine with all various sorts of Armani-suited dudes.
The accent comes and goes as well, so when he is trying to put on airs and graces is when it comes in thick.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's like he's trying to impress people by sounding like... I think at some point he mentions he's from, when he's talking to himself at the end, like he's from Philadelphia, but he's got a very, the accent is sometimes like very waspy and very, and his line reading of Tuesday just is, with all the O's in it, Tuesday. It's hilarious.
Hey, I don't know if you had the same thought as me, but it did run through my mind throughout this. That I think the reading of the film, that is a story about a guy who is desperate to find love, but is absolutely incapable of managing love with another person.
And I don't know why, because he's very normal.
But he's very normal. But I had another reading on it while watching it. I thought you could watch this film and see it as a guy who actually has been bitten by a rabid bat and has contracted rabies, and he's slowly going demented because of rabies, because he has these tics. Do you notice his tics where his jaw kind of starts spasming at times, where he goes like that, and the violence and all that sort of stuff that he gets involved with? I was like, no, he's got rabies, that's what's wrong with him.
He wanted to be really bitten by a bat, and the director had to convince him that if you get bitten by a bat, Nicholas, you're going to die, and that's when he decided not to do it. And did you guys notice the cockroach scene?
Fuck yeah. What about you, Jamie?
I mean, I'd heard about it.
That was his idea.
It was supposed to be something else, like a raw egg or something, and he said, "No, fuck
a baby."
Hey, Kevin, set it up for the listeners. What is the cockroach scene for those who haven't actually seen the film?
So, yeah, Nicolas Cage takes out Casey Lemons on a date. They are in a bar, which, there's one thing I want to mention about that bar. They do a sort of a pan across this theatre that's packed out, and everybody's drinking. And right in the back of the scene at the bar, leaning over having a drink, is David Hyde Pierce, and he's just in there as an extra. Way. And I saw his name, I saw his face, and I thought, oh, he's got to pop up again later on. He doesn't. So in 1989, I think he was probably just taking on some extra work to help him get by. But yeah, he's in there. Anyway, he is on a date with Casey Lemons. He takes her back to his place. A bat comes in to his apartment, starts flying around the place, and from there, Nicolas Cage starts to think that he has been bitten by a vampire bat, and is turning into a. No, that's not what happens. That's later on.
It starts this obsession with thinking.
I'll be honest with you guys, I can't remember this film. I only watched it yesterday.
Well, what happened was he meets Jennifer Beals. Ever since the bat comes in, once the bat comes into his place, he's a bit kind of like obsessed with the bat. And he's out on a night out with some of his buddies, and he's just completely disinterested in him. And he notices Jennifer Beals sitting on her own in the corner, and he goes over and chats her up. And we cut to them.
That's at the bar where David I. Pierce is.
Oh, right. And then we cut to them in bed. He's presumably taken her home, and she bites his neck. And it's pretty quick. It's a pretty quick transition of he's being bitten in the neck.
What also happens after that is that the next morning, after she mauls his neck, and it looks like it's literally... a woman who's a vampire is feeding off of him.
Yeah.
He brings in tea to her the next morning, or coffee, and there's nobody in bed. And you get to see that this is all a figment of his imagination. But it doesn't stop Nicolas Cage from committing to this insanity and acting more and more deranged. And like the light is affecting him.
It's what he does to Alva. He's gotten this assistant, Alva, as we say, played by
Maria Conchita
Alonso, and he's gotten word from one of his clients that he wants a contract. His client wants a contract, and Nicolas Cage goes batshit crazy, excuse the pun, at Alva to get this bloody contract. And poor Alva is just tormented by him and is terrified of him because he's just fucking going crazy at her. And he's so wicked and awful that when the client says, "Oh, yeah, I don't need that, don't worry about it," he still torments
and tells her,
"Oh no,
actually, your man's really annoyed. I hope you're happy." It's kind of his relationship with her, which is, I think it's one of those things where, like, you often say, "Oh, this would never get made today," but his stalking of her, his treatment of her is like starts out as just being he's a shit boss, like he's just not very pleasant, but then it gets more and more icky and creepy until culminating where it's like chasing her down into the women's bathroom. And I like that where there's like the older secretary there, and she's like, "What the fuck is going on here?"
Typical New Yorker. You could view this film as a comedy, aside from the relationship that he has with her.
Yeah,
because it gets very dark with her.
He is hilarious, but there's the scene with her. There's the scene much later on in the nightclub where he's got the fake fangs on, and that it's like it's sort of play. It is funny because, like, jumping forward, but like he comes across like this woman thinks he's kind of funny and goofy, like because Nicolas Cage is doing that thing where he's hunching up his shoulders so he's got no neck, like he's really Nosferatuing it around.
Yeah, he based it literally on that.
And she's laughing, and he's like sort of like rubbing his hands over her neck, and she's thinking it's hilarious until he starts actually biting her. And that scene and the one where he chases Alva into the basement of the building
and rapes her.
Well, the scene itself is just he's ripping off to bite her throat, but then and then he tries to shoot himself, and it's for all intents and purposes that scene with her is played as a sexual assault, and that's spurs the end of the movie. But it's funny because he is so funny, and he is, even when he's just as you guys are saying, like him just standing still in the middle of the room, and he's just hilarious. Like the expressions he sort of runs through. He's doing full body acting. Yeah, it's it reminded me of like when Willem Dafoe was playing Nosferatu in that what was that movie with
Shadow of the Vampire.
Shadow of the Vampire, and he's got there's a scene where like I think like there's light about to come through a window. Willem Dafoe does this really like just like in the Nosferatu, he just does this like reaction to the window, like and pulls back and ducks out of frame. And it's that movies as well is Shadow of the Vampire is it's a black comedy in many ways, like about filmmaking in that sense. But the Vampire's Kiss it's a real odd one tonally, because it could be a comedy, but the music is playing like this is a really serious, like a horror
Great
movie. Great music, and it's as you said, like that the cameras shoot New York in a very ominous looking way, and even the apartment he looks in is kind of has a cathedral look to it. But then like Cage is just going, like he's just going for it. Like he's every scene he's going. Yeah. It's a scene like I've got written down in my notes here. Random mimes, like he goes back to his apartment.
Yeah, and the director doesn't know why he included that in the film. There's a moment where he's coming back to his apartment, and this film was non-union, so they were getting heckled and picketed by union guys throughout the film. So anything they were shooting out in the street, there was usually a cordon, just off screen with guys shouting and trying to ruin takes. But there's a moment where Nicolas Cage returns back to his apartment, and outside the building are two mimes having a fist fight.
Yes.
Where they're so committed to being mimes that they're acting as if a fake punch is a real punch. Bizarre. But what I wanted to say earlier on, I need to finish the point because we jumped about 6-7 times before I got there, was Nicolas Cage finds a cockroach on his cooker countertop and he eats it, and it's a real live cockroach.
Yeah.
And he really regrets doing that, but they did 27 takes.
Not as much as the cockroach did. Not as much as any of the 27 cockroaches did, I imagine.
They got a lot of stick for that, but he said, if any of those people who were complaining about me killing the cockroach have ever used a can of bug spray, then they don't have any grounds to complain.
Were they complaining because it was a non-union cockroach?
Yes.
You're talking about the mime thing, because I think this film is so well fucking written. There are so many, lovely beats along the film where Cage, even from his office, is looking down the street early in the film, and he sees a couple, this kind of a happy dating couple on the sidewalk. He later on is in a diner, and he was listening to a couple of girls behind him talking about their happy marriage, and he flips out, not getting engaged or something like that. He flips out, and then the mime artist thing with this kind of fighting couple mime artist. So he's desperately and I couldn't quite pin it down. Well, he does at the end say that, I just want a relationship, I just want to be loved. And I don't want to get into the final act and those final beats, but
can I tell you who wrote the film?
I would love to know who wrote the film.
It's written by Joseph Minion, and Joseph Minion's other big credit, and I think you noticed the correlation. Yes, Jamie, you say it.
I'm sorry. So it was After Hours, right?
Yes, it's After Hours. So yeah.
Wow.
So I think After Hours and this would be a very good double feature.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, this film is something else. And as Jamie was saying, you can watch this film and see it as this could be a straight horror film if or a drama or a thriller, right? If some of the story decisions later on weren't taken, or if you had a different actor who was playing it completely straight and wanted, if you had Christian Bale in the role, I wonder how this film would have.
I don't think it would work nearly as good. I think this is only Nicolas Cage could play it.
I've heard about this movie for many years, but I hadn't seen it. But one of the bits of trivia I had heard.
How did you hear about this film? In what context? Was it being recommended to you?
I think it was a buddy of mine had seen it years ago, and I'd heard of it for years. Because after Cage was making, it was around he was doing Raising Arizona and Moonstruck, and what were the other sort of movies he was doing around then. He did this thing called Deadfall, which I've only seen a trailer for, but it looks mental. And then around
he was doing
96
Wings of the Apache.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was 1991.
And then 96 he did The Rock, and with Sean Connery and Michael Bay, and then he did a whole string of action movies for 10, 15 years. He was just doing
Leaving Las Vegas. Cracking action film.
Oh, and cracking action. Well, but he was getting most of his big paychecks for doing things like the National Treasure movies and Con Air and Face Off, and people were a lot of people would have known him only through those. Whereas I think the first I'd remember, or Wild at Heart, I was thinking Wild at Heart and Raising Arizona are always like just fixed together in my head. I think he did those pretty close together, right?
Yes.
It was just like I was aware of Nicolas Cage from like things like Raising Arizona, Wild at Heart, and people saying, oh, his early like his 80s stuff and Moonstruck. I've still never seen Moonstruck, and Vampire's Kiss, and a friend of mine sort of who really does like that kind of sort of exaggerated physical comedy that you could argue that Nicolas Cage is doing in this movie. He'd say like, oh, you should check it out. But at some point then, I had heard he did the original actor who was up for this and dropped
Who's
out
that?
was Dennis Quaid.
Oh.
Whoa. It just wouldn't have been the same film.
And he dropped out to do Inner Space.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we lucked out.
Wow.
We got 2 good movies.
Yeah, that's true.
I think I've already said it, but what Cage brings to this film is the comedic heart and a despicable character that you love to hate and you enjoy hating.
Do you hate
when
him?
he's been horrible? Oh yeah, I hate him.
Do you?
When he's been horrible, when what he does to Alva,
Do you?
when he is tormenting Alva, but he is tormenting her in a way that actually makes me laugh out loud, and I want to see him get his just desserts at the end of this film.
They did a test screening of the film, and the audience were in hysterics. There's a much longer cut of this film, and Cage thinks that all of his best character stuff is on the cutting room floor, and that he would love to have seen that stuff reinstalled. But they did a test screening, and the audience absolutely fucking loved every time he was being abusive to Alva. So, you know, I think people were on board with this being a very, very black comedy. And as despicable as he is, because he's a fucking bully and he's a mentalist and he's a harasser of women and a sex pest and all that, he gets his comeuppance, and it's a very ironic ending which comes about. So I think we have permission to enjoy how despicable he is.
Yes, I think so. Absolutely.
Knowing how he ends up.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, if he got the girl at the end, then I would feel like the politics of the film are so off-center that I would end up resenting it. But because of where it goes, it allowed me to feel okay about laughing at stuff that was going on in the film.
It's the whole relationship with her was another thing that made me think of American Psycho, the way that Christian Bale's relationship with Chloe Sevigny. She's like his secretary, and at some point, I think, I haven't seen it in a long time now, but he invites her over with the intention of murdering her. And I thought like, oh, is this going to be a thing where, because he's lusting after Jennifer Beals, who's biting him, and he's also sort of like fucking around with Cassie Lemons, and I was like, oh, right, and is this movie going to turn to one of those things where he says, oh, love was under his nose all along? And so I was kind of happy that it was so dark, and I was like, oh no, he's just going to get worse and worse. Like, he is a horrible person to her.
Well,
yeah, so I was glad that in a way that he didn't, but at the same time, it was tough to watch.
Well, where it goes towards the end had me doubting whether any of the scenes in the movie actually happened. Because when he comes clean to his therapist, and I properly guffawed, but when he comes clean to his therapist, he says, 2 nights ago, I raped someone, and she responds, oh, it's just a little release of the aid. And he goes, and also, I killed someone. And she said, oh, Peter, people die all the time in this city. Run along, enjoy a romance. I'll take care of the cops. And I just thought,
yeah.
Wasn't he on the phone in the street and he was hallucinating that whole thing?
He's walking. He walks into a wall, like when his hair is disheveled and he's covered in blood and carrying around a stake, harassing people to try and stab him with it. And he bumps into a wall, and suddenly, like, it just keeps cutting between him in his mind talking to the psychiatrist. And he's also, in his mind, he's standing on a window ledge. He's standing right up on the window. It's a very odd shot.
It's an amazing shot. So that particular shot is absolutely amazing.
Yes, and he's that whole, and then the whole exchange, you just know something's off about it because his hair is completely back in place again, and he's carrying this this ridiculous stake, and she's just, as you say, Kev, he's like that thing, like, oh, people get murdered every day, and yeah, that had me laughing a lot. And just his sort of betrayal. Well, I did murder someone. He just has this like stupid shrug. It's just like very funny.
I really think this film is a great example of having your cake and eating it, right? Because it does two really clever things. One, it's probably a standard screenwriting tool or kind of rule or whatever, advice. If you have a character that's despicable and doesn't change throughout the course of the story, they kind of have to get their punishment. The story gods have to punish them at the end of the story. It's like a real Grecian thing, I believe. But we kind of get that. We get that. But also, we get the happy ending. The ending that you were just talking about, that scene in the psychiatrist's office. That's his happy ending. So we get a happy ending and we get his comeuppance, like, together in one film. So it kind of does this amazing balancing act of satisfying both aspects of the story, and I think that's an incredible feat that this film pulls off.
I really love the fact that he has this like imaginary ending. The psychiatrist is like, "Oh, I should introduce you to my other patient. She's also looking for love," and then they go off, and then it cuts to him in reality, like where he's shuffling along the street talking to her, and you're just, of course, only hearing his side of the conversation.
Yeah.
But by the time it takes him to like just walk from the street corner into his apartment, he's screaming at them, like calling her a fucking cunt, and it's like
he says cunt like, about 2 or 3 times in this film, and I was shocked that they could get away with that back then.
It was like I don't know if it's just the it wasn't the time. I mean, American cinema's always been very like
puritanical,
hesitant of using that word. Well, but especially if that word, like, that does not, like, that's the big guns. They pull that out for like the R-rated movies. They don't use that lightly. And yeah, Nicolas Cage uses that word quite a lot, and not in the affectionate Glaswegian way.
Jennifer Beals was cast on this movie on a Monday, and she started filming on a Tuesday, and she was a last-minute replacement for another actress who dropped out.
I have another bit of trivia, because I must admit I didn't mean to. Go on. But I had to look up an actor's name on Wikipedia after I saw it, and so I had 2 bits of trivia I got from the Wikipedia page, and I've been keeping them under my hat. But the first one was that apparently, and this could be complete conjecture, is that Nicolas Cage did not get on with Jennifer Beals because he wanted his own then girlfriend to be cast in the role, and she didn't get it.
Who was his girlfriend?
Oh, wow.
Patricia Arquette.
Oh, she would have been good.
She would have been good. But the other trivia, which is a much more weirder and darker one, which was that the writer wrote it about in a state of depression as his marriage was falling apart. And his then wife, is one of the producers on this movie. And apparently
so he based
said
the
he was
succubus on her.
Yes. And she apparently was horrified when they saw when the movie got made.
But he enjoyed it.
Apparently, he enjoyed it. But then he doesn't come out. If you look at that reading, he doesn't come out of it very well. I mean, the Nicolas Cage character, although very entertaining because it's Nicolas Cage, he's despicable. He's by a long country mile the worst character in this movie.
Let's fill people in a little bit, because the film is very rambling, and there isn't much of a plot, so things sort of just roll along as he becomes more and more erratic. And the only thing that's sort of holding things together is whether Maria Conchita Alonso is going to find this file that he's asking her to look for, which doesn't really matter. Yes. I guess his bullying of her is what becomes his great undoing, because when he takes it to such an extreme where he assaults her, but she tells her brother, she goes home and she's in a bleak depression over what happened to her, and she confides in her brother that something happened, and the brother is a mechanic, and she has kept a gun on her which has been unloaded. He gave her some blanks to use, and those are the ones which Nicolas Cage used on himself after that encounter. But when she tells her brother what happened, the brother decides, well, this is not going to stand. And that's what becomes Nicolas Cage's undoing.
I love so much about this film. I'm already tipping my hand here. But
did you like it?
Particular aspect of the plot, no, I didn't really. But overall, I thought it was grand. Maria's character, Alva. How we see how sexual politics were dealt with back in the 80s. When she goes home after she's told that her boss is a fucking psychopath and that she's out sick from work. Both of her parents and her brother basically tell her, suck it up, go in. He's your boss. He's supposed to do
Nobody
that. You
likes
just
their
suck it up and get on with
boss.
it.
But she didn't tell her
Yeah.
mother that he had gone that far with her.
No, that hadn't happened yet. But initially, he had been he
He chased her into the ladies' bathroom.
Yeah, been a real monster to her. And what I found in one way horrifying, but also kind of entertaining, was how Nicolas Cage, on multiple occasions, whiles her favour of him back. Like, he goes down, when he goes out to her apartment in Queens or wherever she is, and she gives him a second chance, she has no one on her side to say, oh, you should tell that guy go
As soon
fuck
as she
himself.
does, he goes fucking apoplectic in the back of the taxi, and the taxi driver doesn't react.
No. And
He's like, you fucking cunt.
And she says to the taxi driver, oh, would you mind if I pull over here? I've got to give my brother some money or something like that. And that's a coincidence that her
Taxi
they're
driver
driving by her brother's apartment.
Are you married?
The way they're following her.
Yeah.
But then she goes to her brother, and her brother's like going, it's fine. You know, it's amazing how she's left out to fend for herself until Nicolas Cage does cross a line. And to be fair to her brother does stand up for her then, which fair play to her.
It's like, I would have should have filed a complaint with Human Resources like from fucking day one. Like the bathroom thing, I was like going, nah. Like, and there's a witness, like there's the woman who's
that
like
people
sitting there.
Don't ever deal with Human Resources in a job unless you're 1,000% certain that they're going to back you against their own boss. I think you're much better off in those situations getting out of the job.
There was another.
That's a bit of life advice. That's a bit of Kev life advice.
Take it
to heart, kids.
Yeah.
There's a bit where one of the secretaries, like Nicolas Cage, is again one of almost every scene in the movie where he just made me laugh by walking in with the sunglasses and just like stopping and like just rattling some pencils in on your one's desk, and then it moves on to the next secretary, and she's got like a little fluffy toy. He just picks it up and just drops it in the ground, and then moves on. And one of the secretaries like, he's so eccentric, and I was like, he's not eccentric, he's a fucking asshole.
And another thing. Sorry, go on, Jamie.
No, I just get it like that eccentric. Like that's the way like some people and maybe this is just like a thing about how certain people get away with certain shit in their situations for so long. It's like people are like, oh well, they've done. Yeah, he's not crazy. He's not an asshole. He's just eccentric. And it's like no, he's a crazy fucking asshole. Like he's a fucking lunatic.
Nicolas Cage showed this film to a girlfriend, and he was recounting this to GQ in 2018, and he said it scared her so much that she got up and left.
Jesus Christ. You know what I loved about his character in this? Not loved, but enjoyed about his character and how despicable he is that we see him in different roles in his life. We see him how he's with Alva and how he's just a monster to her. We see how he's a slave to Rachel, the vampire Jennifer Beals. But then we also see him in the boardroom with his boss, and he's a complete lick arse. It's just that he's over laughing at the boss's jokes. He's just
but that's what you're supposed to do.
Up his boss.
Not a bit of Kev life advice. Lick the arse of your bosses. That's how you get ahead.
What I liked about it is that in each role, Cage and the character goes to an extreme. It just really, he's not just an asshole all around to everyone. He's not inside the boss's office going, oh, fuck you, boss. But he's just this whimpering,
Would you say that Nicolas Cage, his character Peter, is a vampire to his boss?
Oh, I can hear the.
He's sucking him off rather than sucking his neck.
He's sucking. Oh, right. I would say he's a vampire to Alva. I think he's Alva's vampire.
A psychic vampire.
Oh, we got competing PhD papers here.
I think Rachel's cocaine. I was there writing another one. I says, what if Rachel's actually a metaphor for cocaine? That he's just addicted to cocaine.
Can I ask before, just there's a bit early on where the psychiatrist is saying something along the lines of, your problem is that you don't feel you've got what you're owed. Or maybe I'm paraphrasing here. And it's sort of, and then later on when he meets, well, vaguely spoiler warnings, the real Rachel, and she just barely remembers him.
Yeah.
And he's like screaming that she's a vampire, and her boyfriend is going like, oh, that's kind of weird. Oh, by the way, terrible fucking bar security in that nightclub, I gotta say. I underlined it several times. Nicolas Cage.
Everybody was wearing trainers.
But everyone's queuing up. He barges through. The door, the bouncer tries to stop him. He punches the bouncer in the stomach and then just walks in.
Good
night.
night.
He's just like flancing around. Like I've worked in nightclubs. There should have been like at least minimum like 2-3 door staff on there. And once you punch someone in the stomach, like the first thing that guy's doing is like getting on the radio and be like, okay, you're looking for like this guy with fake teeth in there. Like just kicked it. And then he just walks around and he bites a woman in the neck in a quiet corner. And then...
Yeah, but this was New York. Like when he screams at the two people walking on the street, those people weren't actors. They weren't extras. They were just people in...
I underlined that. It's like those people felt really real.
So this was, as Nicolas Cage said, pre-Giuliani. There were moments where they had to move dead bodies out of the street in order to film there. So it was rife with crime at the time.
Oh my God. Can I highlight a couple of my favourite Nicolas Cage moments in this film?
Go for it.
And one of them was after he tries to rapes Alva down in the basement and he starts crying. He literally goes... Boo hoo! Boo hoo!
Do you know what?
I love that.
On the audio commentary, he said he struggled to try and make boo hoo sound natural. And I thought, you didn't try to make any of this natural, so why was this difficult for you at that moment? Yeah.
Oh, fuck me, Pink. And then when he's running down the street after that, he's running down and he's literally, is this his meme when he's screaming at like passers-by and he's going, I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! And another moment that had me laughing out loud was when he goes into a kind of a costume shop and he wants to get the vampire's teeth. And the guy says, oh, we've got good vampire's teeth. And like they look really, convincing, but they're $20 and he's only got like a couple of bucks.
Yeah.
So he's $3 and he says, well, I've got these, and there's kids' vampire's teeth. So
did you ever wear those? They're really uncomfortable.
Oh, awful. like yeah, my kid had vampire teeth and they're so painful.
Cut your gums up.
So he goes around for scenes wearing these awful, and these are the teeth he used then to kill a woman in a nightclub.
Well, no, I think he gets rid of the teeth and bites her with his own teeth.
Really?
Yeah, I think I stopped that.
To seeing this
played it back again.
Oh man!
So
man.
Look, is there anything else you want to add, Jamie?
No, I think Will jumped in there.
What
with
about your friend?
boo-hoo.
Does he have anything he wants to say?
Get your pod buddy on. Have we seen Vampires Kiss?
I've never seen this guy in the office until tonight. Like it's a big office space, and like I don't recognize the guy. Never seen him before. So
Imagine if it was Nick Cage.
Yeah, Jesus, that would be awesome.
And I want to add another thing that I loved
Okay.
about this was how he makes his own coffin in his apartment. He turns his black couch upside down.
It's like how you'd build a camp in your bedroom as a kid.
Genius. And he he's basically just living the life of a vampire. And it's like a kid playing vampire. That's what it is.
Except
all of this is
he's
like
a
a
lunatic.
kid playing vampire.
All right.
Yeah, that's it.
So, who is your MVP of the film, Will?
I truly have so many MVPs because I thought this was a very, very, very accomplished film, but it has to go to Nicolas Cage. I genuinely think this is one of my favourite Nicolas Cage performances.
Wow.
It's up there at the top, truly. Wow. I think he elevates this. This film is a good film anyway, but he brings it up a level up to another level by his performance alone. He brings the comedy. He brings so much to every scene. He's so committed. I truly loved his performance in this film. It was fucking batshit crazy. Another pun.
There we go. Ba-dum.
I'm not. I don't regret it at all. So that's my MVP.
What about you, Jamie?
Well, I already mentioned mine, but it's the senior secretary in the bathroom when Nicolas Cage runs in after her. She says, "What's fucking going on here?" And then she just sort of like strolls out, like I've given as much energy as I can to this problem, and now I don't give a shit anymore, and just walks out. And I was like, oh, she's great. I wanted to see her again, like, you know, just shouting at Nicolas Cage. But no, that was a one and done scene. I think she sees her talking to Alva a little afterwards. But that made me laugh. The psychiatrist as well. Her final scene, I was just like,
Elizabeth Ashley. Yeah, I mean, she's a really accomplished actress. If you look up her credits, she's done tons of things.
What about you, Kevin? What about your MVP?
Look, this film doesn't work without Nicolas Cage, but I have to say, looking up the director of this, because I thought it was really well directed, and for a $2 million film and shooting in New York City, this looks like it's a $20 million film. It looks like no expense was spared.
I agree with you.
It's a great Nicolas Cage movie, but I'm going to give it to the director, because the director of this was, as I said, he hasn't worked now since 2012. I don't know if he's retired or what have you. He ended up working a lot on British television, doing Holby City, Casualty, not the most auspicious of television. And I think if he was still going now, maybe he'd be working on some great top tier TV. But he was going to do The Fly, the David Cronenberg film, before this. And he pulled out at the last minute when his daughter died. And he's never watched the film because of that, because he had such a connection to the material. He was going to make it. He had a script and he had his interpretation of it. And that was a very interesting thing to learn about his career, so that he went from having that moment, which would have made him, essentially, you know, doing The Fly with Mel Brooks and such a big budget, to then doing this film, which, as we do on all of these episodes, or as we plan to do, it was a commercial flop. It's now, I think, become a really well-known cult film. But he did something really special with the film. And it's a shame that he didn't get to do more films. So I'm going to give it to him. I think that Robert Bierman did brilliant work on this. And he got a great performance out of Nicolas Cage.
Mm-hmm. It's a great film. It's a great, great film. And it is, I suppose, this film does something that I hoped this series of podcasts would do, which is find a gem amongst summer flops. And I genuinely didn't think we would find one. And for me, this is a gem of a film. I think it is an incredible portrait of a despicable character, but it is entertaining from beginning to end.
It's just a really well-made film.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Beautiful
it's really
look.
refreshing in 2022 when we're getting such formulaic, plastic movies, to see something which is so avant-garde and oddball.
Yep.
I'm going to recommend this film. Jamie, do you recommend it?
Yeah, I'm going to give it 1.5 fluttering bats around a room. I was chasing a bat around a room.
Out of what, 2?
Yeah, I get out of 5. Like, how many bats? It's like,
Oh,
I guess
you didn't like it then?
Oh, I liked it. It's
1.5 bats out of 5 is a pretty damning score.
No, 3.5 out of 5.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to get my bats in order there. I was trying to think, like, 3 bats.
When they're moving so fast, it is hard. They are hard to come.
I think it's like 3 bats, and 1 Nicolas Cage. I was chasing a bat around a room about a month ago for a good half an hour. They're really difficult to try and catch.
How did you how did you do it? What was your technique?
Well, in the past,
get it, Johnny. Go on, Johnny.
Throw a t-shirt on it, or I just wait. I would wait till it was tired, and then grabbed it, and then threw it out the door. Or I didn't throw it out the door, or just let it just cling onto my clothes.
Throw it into traffic.
You let it cling onto your clothes?
Well, it sort of flew and then landed on my shirt. I just put my hand so it couldn't get away, and then I walked outside. Just let it.
If that happened to me, I would reach notes only dogs could hear.
Found it, Chief.
We've had a few bats in this house, actually, and I've gotten them out by opening all the doors, or just creating a kind of a highway for it to get out, and just hiding in a corner and with a tea towel, and wait until they took flight, and then just start waving my tea towel and just hoping to usher it out the door. And it's worked. Every time it's worked.
It worked better than Nicolas Cage. I don't know what he is swinging at that bat in that early scene. It's also a very, very big bat. So I guess his trepidation is kind of justified.
And it was a real bat.
It was not a real bat.
It was a real bat, but it was stuffed.
That was if you want to hear one, my least favorite thing about this film was that bat scene. It was the worst. It was so fake. It was awful looking. And I want to say,
I loved it. It was my favorite bit.
This film, I loved this film. I thought this film was great.
Good.
I highly recommend it.
Good. All right, I'm going to spin the wheel for you, Will, for our next episode. But Jamie, it was lovely to have you on again. Where can people find you?
Well, I'm intermittently on Twitter, Jamie ... yeah, that's it. That's my Twitter handle.
And that is ... spelled out. It's not
DOT. It just seemed like a really good idea about 13 years ago, and has progressively been a less great idea as I keep having to spell it out at every bank. And
I think that's just Twitter in general. All right. Yeah. Well, great to have you on, Jamie. Thanks for doing this.
Yes, thanks for having me. Thanks for helping me watch that movie.
For me having a series of brain farts throughout this, but I love the film, and I'm glad we watched it. And I'm spinning the wheel for you now, Will. And the year is
go on
2007.
2007. I am going for a Pirates of the Caribbean movie, I assume.
Good. Okay. Well then, Jamie and Will,
Salvation.
You'll be back next week, and I'll skip this on the next episode. All right. Well, we'll let you go. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Jamie. All right. Good luck.
Good night.
Take care.
And I'm getting stopped.
And here is a clip from the lad's latest Mini Bits bonus show. The full episode, plus 80 more, are available on their Patreon.
See ya, Mossy. I gotta go in and record another one of these fucking Mini Bits.
Oh, yes, this is all it is.
I know.
What are you doing?
Right now, on the Academy screener site, and I hit play because there's only a few films on it for the first month or two. There's only like about less than 10 films on it. And Guy Ritchie's The Covenant is on here. So I hit play on that, and I'm hearing we're out in Afghanistan, and I'm hearing all the dirt, and I hear vehicles, and I hear the sound effects of characters walking. But when characters open their mouths, I don't hear any dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's
no dialogue.
They've uploaded the wrong audio track. It's like that Tom Cruise trailer where it was just the sound effects.
Like, have you met an SP?
Yeah, and this film has been up on the screen site for a few weeks now, and they still have the wrong one here. Well, I tell you what films are actually up there for all Academy members to see, and they see what they've put up there.
But first of all, let's just throw to our theme. And I have to say, the feedback from my thank you ballad it was quite fierce.
The power of Christ compels you.
So I asked Mossy, who is a friend of my dad's at the quiz, sing us a theme tune.
Oh.
So over to Mossy.
Hit the cards. I'm fine, I'll get it done in one take. It's the Mini Bits. Oh, podcast, what will they say? With Will and Captain Cock.
The best fucking podcast.
That'll do.
That'll do.
My God.
Thank you, Mossy.
He would make an angel weep. That voice would make an angel weep.
Telling you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Boolabus.
It only cost us 2 months Patreon money, so, you know.
Is that all? Money well spent, in my eyes.
Yeah. I mean, you can't get much for €20. Will, you were telling me before the intro that you were looking at stuff on the Academy Screeners website.
The Academy Awards. So for official members, yes. So they don't send out DVDs anymore. So how you do all your streaming stuff is all via the Academy website. And the streaming season has begun, which is exciting. So it means for the rest of the year...
Did it ever end?
It does end. It does. After the Academy Awards, there's about 2 weeks, and they take all the films down, and then they begin again at the end of August, and they all start coming up. So it's a whole new collection of hopefuls.
So how many films are on there?
Right now, about 10. Actually, 10 exactly. I can tell you the 10.
Oh, go on, tell me.
John Wick 4.
For the Oscars. Oh, because there's like...
Yes, because they're adding in stunt category, aren't they?
Are they adding it in? Is the stunt category being added?
I believe they're adding in some sort of stunt category.
Breaking news straight from an Academy member's mouth.
Because they're adding in stunt category, aren't they?
Slash film.
I don't know. Did I read this in an article? I feel they were.
I
felt they were.
Have long overlooked stunts, and my God, it's pure artistry.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly, well, these days, it's all fucking rubber computer generated avatars.
That's why that's why these people should be getting their Oscars when someone's actually gone out. Yeah,
go back,
absolutely.
Go back and give it to your man from Mad Max who broke his legs.
Give it to Richard Farnsworth, who was a stuntman and starred in The Straight Story. Yeah, Richard Farnsworth was a career stuntman.
Oh.
Absolutely.
Wasn't that also the case with Machete? What's your man, Machete? Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo.
Is
really?
It Trejo or Trejo?
I always call him Trejo, but he just says, call me Danny.
I was going to say that back to you.
Nah.
I was like, just that.
Weird.
That's me just calling